Okay, you look at broadcast is live. Yeah.
Is it?
Okay, so good to have you here, Siwei. Thanks for coming up to this show. How do you feel this morning?
I'm alright. Pretty good,
Okay,
I think. Yeah. Friday,
that's
everyone's
good.
looking forward to the weekend.
Good choice. Good choice of the date to be interviewed.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so I would like to welcome everyone, all our viewers. Okay, welcome to the Profitable Impactful Educator PIE series. Okay, this is an initiative to equip growth-oriented tutors to increase profitability and to deliver impactful, transformative teaching to raise the industry standard of the tuition industry. If you are watching this, please share this with anyone who might benefit from it. This program is only possible with the dedicated support of my fellow community builder, Jeffrey Teo. Jeffrey, please say hi. Yeah, hello, Jeffrey. You are looking at the technical wizard that makes all these things possible. I'm just a talking head. That's all. Yeah. Okay, today we have Siwei. Okay, Siwei to share his wisdom with us.
Hello.
Yeah, so Siwei, we were just talking about how we met. So it's really life has its ways. Very interesting way to get connected to you. Okay, let me introduce you a little bit. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so you founded this company called Living Theories. Now, Living Theory was created to answer a key question: how do we engage people effectively and meaningfully? Now, Living Theory is a team of engagement designers who focuses on using gamification to transform your students into engaged players. Siwei has dedicated his lifetime to playing games under the guise of research. He has successfully convinced a motley crew of gamers, designers, and consultants to join him in his endless quest to get companies to pay good money to play more. Okay, nice one. He works with schools, government agencies, and MNCs, all in the name of meaningful fun. Okay, some fun facts about Siwei. Okay, he once secretly wanted to leave home as a young boy, but didn't know how to spell living and ended up staying home. Yeah, this one reminds me of my own story. Later I will share.
Yeah.
Okay. During his peak eating years, he once put down over 1 kilogram of food in a single sitting. Oh, okay. I never measured mine, but maybe I could challenge you.
Yeah. Can be
Not
done,
now,
man.
not now, though.
Yeah, no. Can already. No
One
more.
of these days. Yeah. Um, yeah, so very interesting background, Siwei. I'm very happy to have you to come on this show with us. All right, so can I
Thanks.
just ask you what really got you started in this extraordinary career of yours?
Uh, well, I've been all over the place. So when I graduated from uni, I was in F&B for a while, as a relations manager, and then I went to SQ to do branding and comms for them, SIA. So I think the main thing that I felt was that learning or training workshops were really boring. And the reason why they were really boring was because most people focused on the frameworks than the actual experience. And we realized that the experience is the one that drives true engagement and drives through kind of perspectives lah. So we decided to create a more interactive approach to how you can learn and how you can see things. I think at that time as well, we started to so I started hanging out with a lot of friends in the arts industry, and I realized that choosing a career in the arts is very difficult, or it's a very challenging kind of process, lah. So I wanted to help people figure out how to choose their careers more effectively. And the first thing that I think we drew inspiration from was we studied games like World of Warcraft, what they call online role playing games, right? Massive multiplayer online role playing games, and we studied how people chose different characters. Why do you choose different characters when you're playing the game? How does that affect how you play the game, and where you want to end up in the game? And lastly, how does that affect the skills and the abilities that you pick up along the way as you do play the game, right? So, for example, if I'm a human magician versus being an elf warrior versus being an undead priest, how does that actually affect my whole game experience and my motivations for playing the game lah. So we took that, we actually applied that into career planning for youths, or future planning for youths, and we kind of got them to figure out why they wanted to play their game, so or why they wanted to craft their career. So find out your why, then figure out what you want to do, and then lastly figure out how you're gonna get there. So we also realized that what you wanted to do will eventually dictate what skills you acquire along the way and what experiences you acquire along the way as well. So yeah, I think it was quite a big success. I think our students really enjoyed it. Very input driven. So yeah, it was fun. And then from there, corporates started calling us to design unique experiences. So right now we are focusing more on the corporate sphere, and we function as consultants to build new experiences, build new projects with our clients. Yeah.
One thing I noticed about this what you do, right, is that
Mm.
seems to be no school, no diploma, no certificate in gamification. In fact, the word gamification, right, when I started searching for it, it doesn't even appear on the online dictionary. It always come up with gasification, and
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
I
yeah.
got this hilarious typo, autocorrect. Yeah, so how was the journey in the beginning when you figure out that hey, you need to create something new?
Yeah, I know. Every time I type it on in my emails, right, it always gives the red line underneath, like this is
Yeah,
not word, man. I'm like,
at least it's not
thanks.
autocorrect.
Yeah. So actually, I never intended really on starting in the term gamification. I really wanted to look at game-based learning, right? So if you're looking at the course that I was sharing with you about, it's really just using a game to teach something. And then slowly but surely, as I did more research, I think we went into the idea of gamification, which is to use game mechanics, theories, principles, player motivations to apply it to non-game settings or real-world settings, right? So I never really intended on starting in that, and I think most courses right now that do share a little bit more about gamification focus on it being a game. So we're trying to detract from that a little bit and focus more on the theoretical and practical approaches to it. Um, so yeah, there isn't a lot of education out there, so it's just about self-acquiring a lot of the knowledge and the information and the experiences. The other problem is that there aren't enough case studies in Asia, especially on gamification.
Hmm.
So uh, I I think I'm kind of building this whole repository from scratch lah.
So a true pioneer.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
You know,
in both your craft and your region where you do your practice, your trade. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. Um, okay, so I would like to uh, move on to the next segment where I want to really ask your advice, right? For some to help. How can educators or tutors, how can we use what you do, the principles of what you do, to really help us to drive up student engagement? Because many of us are into online tutoring,
Mm,
online teaching, and face-to-face engagement is already hard. There are so many
mm,
books that talk about how do you engage your students in a physical classroom. And now we are talking about a new normal, which is post-COVID new normal. And online engagement is a must-do. It's something that we often find challenging. So,
mm.
can you give us some advice on how we can use gamification principles to drive up engagement?
Uh, okay, so basically, I think we need to realize. Well, I'm not sure if this is a gamification principle, but for us, okay, when you do play games, right, you are expose basically games usually have a set of rules, and then within a set of rules you are free to explore how you want to play the game and why you want to play the game and what resources you can deploy to play the game. So I think if you take the same principle and you apply it to online learning, right, you kind of see a similarity in that you realize that because everything is online, students are no longer restricted to just textbooks to learn, right? Or just the teacher's perspective. So I think it's important for educators to be able to use all available resources to be able to share with the students or teach the students a little bit more. So for example, if you're teaching literature, right, and you do want to share a little bit more about modern poetry, want to share a bit more about how poetry is infused in like music, you can share YouTube links immediately, get them to watch, get them to listen, get them to feel, and I think that tremendously kind of value adds lah. So I think it's about embracing like all resources rather than confining students to only using the resources that we set out for you. Yeah, I think that will be number one. Um,
So everything,
mhm.
anything that you can put your hands on, just so there is no
Yeah,
restriction to say what text based or video based. No, video is not good. Nothing like that.
I wouldn't because at the end of the day, don't forget that they might just do that in their free time. So you can't really control it, right? And if you can't really control it, and this is their new mode of experiencing learning and education, then you gotta embrace it, lah. So
Yeah, man.
you know, yeah, learn it through
I,
games, learn it through this.
yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree because I myself I teach in polytechnics and I teach
Mm,
in tuition centers. So I deal with kids that's like pretty IT savvy,
mm,
teenagers and beyond. So I feel that we are in an age where there is no holding back of any information.
mm,
There is just guidance, I think,
mm.
because there is really no way to say that, hey, you shall not read this, hey, you shall not watch this, because
Yeah.
students they can just um, find their own ways to get all these resources.
Yeah.
So there is, yeah, I think that's part of the new normal that we talk about. Lah. So uh, I think
Yeah.
guidance is definitely more apt
Correct. Also,
than
don't
strict.
forget that now, I think when the internet first came out, we were the more savvy ones. But now the students are more savvy than us in terms of how to use the internet and how to search for information, right? So we can't control it because they are the knowledge custodians right now. If the irony of it, lah, right? That the young
Yeah.
people right now are the custodians of knowledge rather than we are. So we have to, for me, we have to get them to learn how to properly utilize the resources rather than try to seek to control the resources because we don't know how to do that
Yeah.
anymore.
How to?
Exactly.
There's
Mm,
no way. Yeah, recently I just have this episode, which is I think it really highlights the old mindset versus the new mindset. So we were doing like a quiz for students,
mm,
right?
mm,
So a few of us we are saying that hey, we don't want students to discuss among themselves, and
mm.
so somebody came up with the idea to say, hey, why don't we just block them? We shut down their video conferencing tools during
Yeah.
the quiz period. And then I was thinking that do you know that they can actually just start a Google Meet for free? They don't even need to depend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they don't even have to. There are so many ways for them. That's just impossible to block them. Yeah.
Mm,
So old mindset versus new mindset, really.
yeah. I fully agree. There's also something. So for example, right now a lot of people do online lectures and things like that, right? Um, there was a hack. There was a hack that was done in a uni. No. It's not a computer hacking thing. It's a life hack that they did that actually I think is actually extremely applicable. So I think it was a US university where uh where the professor was giving a lecture and what the students in that class did was they actually started a Google Docs and they invited all their classmates in there, and then they just created a common set of notes, like lecture notes, right? So, but they
Okay.
did it on Google Docs, so everybody was in on it. But then you realize that actually that's a really good idea, and eventually when the prof was in on it, they gave the prof access so he could go in and answer their questions there, right? So
Yeah.
everyone's using the same pair of notes. Everyone looks at kind of the same. Of course, you take your own, but there is a generic set of notes that everybody contributes to. So it's user-generated content. I mean, if you think about it, it's crowdsourced lecture
Crowdsource.
notes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
and actually that's a genius way of utilizing rather than saying, oh, that's cheating and like that shouldn't happen. You're not allowed to do. Embrace it, right? And get them to share, get them to talk about these things, get them to ask questions. And when you give your prof access, your prof then or your teacher then can understand how you think, understand how to address certain issues that you might have, and in a very nice way.
Yeah. So I think I like what you said about talking to them. So I think information nowadays is abundant everywhere, right? But the only way to know whether this information come from you or don't come from you is really to engage a student in a conversation, right?
Yeah.
To ask them to
Yeah.
present or to tell you what they know.
Mm.
That's much better than restricting them and say, hey, you shall not copy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
example. Good example. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
think I think it's also sorry, I also think it's quite important to have autonomy of learning. I think we have to recognize that everyone has slightly different learning styles. Everyone
ah,
processes information differently. So
mhm,
I mean, in our time, right, we used to talk about it as what kinesthetic, auditory, and visual learners, right? I think now
mm,
maybe it's slightly different, right? Like people who are more experiential, people
mm,
who are more knowledge driven, like book driven, right? So there
mhm.
are a lot of ways of processing knowledge, and I think our job is to get the knowledge inside you. I don't care how you eat it, but get it inside you, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, it's same thing whether I hide your medicine in a pill or whether I hide it in your food or whether I get you to, as long as you eat your medicine, you take the same
Ah,
principle and you apply to knowledge. I don't care how you process the knowledge, but I need the knowledge inside you. I need you to understand how this works, right? So I want to allow you to play around with how you would eat the knowledge or how you would consume the knowledge, right,
okay.
in a way that best fits you. And I think that's really important. So some people
Okay.
could be, I want to talk to my teacher a lot and I'll keep asking my teacher questions because that's
Mm,
how I learn. Other people we know, just give me the script, give me the book and I'll read it and I'll understand it, right?
mm,
So yeah, I think that's something that is really important that I think
mm,
teachers
mm.
should. I mean, I know it's tough. I know it's tough. I
Ah,
know it's not the easiest thing for you to be able to cater to a lot of different types of students, but I think understanding this or at least at the start, being able to address this with students would be a really big value add lah.
yeah. I think that's a part of the movement of customized teaching and customized learning.
Mm.
Uh, I think that in the past, speaking from a teacher's point of view, right, there is always this uh, mentality that only when you read text-based things, right, then you are the most knowledgeable, then you learn the deepest and stuff like that. Like if you watch a video and
Yeah,
if you watch Harry Potter video, then you don't really learn as much as when you
yeah,
read Harry Potter's book, right? Something like that.
yeah,
Like seems to be a higher order learning skill
yeah.
to read. So what you're saying is that actually we should embrace different styles, right? No matter you like to watch a video or you like to listen to a podcast or you like to read a text or you want to read manga, it's up to you.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that in the real world right now. Maybe we never really acknowledged it till now, but what we're seeing also is that sometimes if you're very, very book smart, because that's how we measure quality of like learning, right? And if you're very, very
Yeah.
book smart and you do leave school and you enter the working world or you enter the real world, you realize that actually other people who might not be as book smart excel and thrive a lot, beyond you, right? And that's also because they're given the tools or they're given the freedom or the autonomy to decide how to learn, what to learn. And when you give me that freedom, I actually outpace you because I know how to process it much better. So you see a lot of
Mm,
people with entrepreneurial backgrounds without a business degree, right? Because they process it a lot faster and a lot differently when you give them the right tools and the right environment to really grow. So I think that's our job as well as educators to be able to see how we can kind of set the bedrock for you to be able to process information, process learning.
mhm.
Uh, you know, if playing games is the way that you learn things, then you will excel if we give you the right games to play, for example.
Oh, so this is really interesting. So, as a gamification expert,
Mm.
you also recognize that not everyone benefits from game-based learning. Am
Yeah,
I hearing that?
yeah. I'll be upfront, which is if which is why game-based learning is a form of learning, right? But it's slightly different from gamification. So when you're looking at game-based learning, I'm making a game and I'm getting you to play the game, and in the process of playing the game, um, you hopefully will learn something, right? But if I'm very resistant or I'm not into games, I actually might not learn that well. Or if I'm more theoretical in nature, maybe, right? I might not learn or I might not absorb the information that well. So not
Or if I'm a
everyone's into
producer?
Yes. I
I don't
refuse
like
to.
losing, then I don't want to play games, right?
Yeah,
I'd rather read the book.
exactly. Because we have to be honest that while it is trendy, not everyone is an experiential learner, correct?
Yes,
You know,
I
so
like that.
we have to recognize that lah.
Mm,
But what gamification does is we study what mechanics drive certain behaviors on a universal level. So, for example, if I add a time challenge, like exams do, if I add a time challenge to the process, how does that change the way you understand or apply the subject? Right? So let's say I give you no time at all. You just say, hey, do this whenever you're ready, come back to me. Versus you have 2 minutes to solve this task. Your mindset shifts and your mindset changes. And games do that a lot. So we take all these mechanics and we see how they will drive certain behaviors. They see, okay, does that help you learn better? Does that help you apply better? Does that help you do things in a different way? Change your perspective. So that's kind of what gamification is.
Oh, this is really highly relevant. This time challenge thing, right? Because
Mm,
some time ago I used to struggle with some of my students, right? They appear to learn better when we have a lot of time for them. Like we literally sit with them for 3 hours, and then they can ask questions anytime. And I know that there are some friends of mine, right? They are experts in crash courses. So to them, they are uh, very they are able to set up the environment that give time constraint to students, and students can do well. So
mm,
to me, that's a dilemma. So is there a kind of holy grail to say that in when it comes to learning deeply, is
mhm.
time challenge better, or is a free play of there's no restriction better? Which one actually helps to learn people to learn deeper?
It depends on what you are trying to achieve. So every single mechanic has a particular function, has a particular purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it I think the problem is that because we might not know enough, we tend to want to try to take that as a blanket application across. Say, oh wow, time challenge really get people very excited, so I'll apply it across all lines, and then you realize it doesn't work in a lot of ways, lah. So what putting a time limit or time challenge on does is it forces you to apply your learning under pressure, and it changes how you kind of look at a situation, which means that you are less likely, if you have a time challenge, you are less likely to explore, you are less likely to be creative, you are less likely to try to process it on your own terms because you feel the pressure, and therefore I will do what I'm told, likely lah, right? So, for example, if you play a game and I tell you to get from point A to point B, even though there's a whole world around us, I tell you to get from point A to point B in 10 seconds, you're gonna disregard the rest of the world and just run from point A to point B, right?
Mm.
So that's essentially what a time challenge does to you, lah. Whereas if you remove the time challenge and I say, hey, get from point A to point B whenever you're ready, you might probably, oh, what's this zone over here? Oh, what's that rock doing there? Go and explore, go and figure it out, go and add things to your own inventory and stuff like that, right? So so that's kind of what uh time challenges do, lah. Uh,
Mm-mm.
you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think applying a lot of different strategies will help you in a lot of different ways, lah.
So,
Mm.
different outcomes. What kind of outcome you want depends.
Yes.
It would decide your approach,
Yeah.
whether time
So
challenge or
yeah, have you heard of this thing? I'm not sure if I shared this with you previously of setting boss level papers.
boss level papers. I think we touch on that slightly.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll share very quickly. So
sure,
for
sure.
example,
Tell
right, when we do play games, right, when we do play games and we fight a boss, there are a few characteristics of a boss character in a game that are quite generic lah. The first one is that a boss is significantly harder than all the other characters or minions that you will normally fight. That's number one. Number two, the boss tends to follow a set pattern or has a set number of abilities that might seem daunting at first, but once you understand the abilities, you know how to fight back or counter those abilities, right? The third function is that if you die or you lose to the boss, which you probably will for the first couple of times, you go back to your starting point. The boss resets back to full health and goes back to his starting point and waits for you to attempt it again, right? And you will try ways and means to figure it out until you get there. So when you take this exact same principle and you apply it to, let's say, an exam concept, let's say it's a math exam that I'd like you to take, I might set this significantly harder, okay? And it is immensely daunting to you and you will fail a few times. But I will also tell you that don't worry, the questions in the paper will not change. They will remain exactly the same. I'll reset the paper. Whenever you're ready, try it again. And what this does is it gets the students to really think about, oh, this time I got stuck at question 4. Okay, this time I got stuck at question 6. Okay, this time I got stuck in, and they will start solving bit by bit by bit and get better and better and better without actually realizing that they're actually solving a paper that's way harder than what they're supposed to be attempting, simply because we just allow you to reset it all the time. So it's a game, right? Reset it, come back whenever you're ready, attempt the exact same paper. You realize that, oh, sure, if I attempt the exact same paper, the first 5 questions, I've done it like 10 times already. I will breeze past the first 5 questions. Then I'll reach my next challenge. And then I'll reach my next challenge. But you'll also realize that they've already acquired some level of mastery as they breeze past the first few challenges. So that's kind of how you can possibly apply something like that.
Wow, very good. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so let me just call out to our audiences. So if you're listening to us, if you're watching this show, okay, I would like to just encourage you to like us, to drop a comment for Q&A. Any questions? We will have a Q&A session after Siwei shared about the advices and then the case studies. So do drop us your comments, okay, do drop us your questions in the comment section, and do share it with any friends, any tutors, any educators whom you think this interview may help them. All right. So the boss level paper is something is a very, very intriguing concept. Okay. So I will have a question for you. So for the boss level
Sure.
the question, right? Literally, the papers don't change. Like you are not even talking about retaining the same question type, but you're talking about retaining the exactly same question. Is that
Yeah,
right?
as in yes, that is the challenge that the educators themselves must set for themselves, have the discipline to not
Mm.
change. Because it's very tempting to say that, oh, if I give the same question, they won't learn anything. It's not necessarily true. Or you could change it on a very minute level just to uh, kickstart the students' brain functions, make sure that they're thinking a little bit. But I would advise to just let it happen first and let's see how they will actually push themselves to take on the challenge of completing this super hard paper. Even if they completed a question at a time, I think it's still very valuable, both as a technical lesson and as a life lesson as well.
This is a very interesting concept. I remember when I play game, right, when I reach any bosses, right, I always get very worried, and then I always tend to over prepare.
Yeah,
Like if I play Diablo 3, I will like tend to raise myself like 3 levels above what the boss requires. So I never really encountered difficulty when fighting bosses.
yeah,
Actually, that reflects in my preparation for any exams. I tend to over prepare before I even attempt.
right.
So I don't want to like have the kind of suspense or the setback that I feel the
Mm.
paper. That was when I was schooling lah. Nowadays I always look at the paper first. Like what am I missing? I
I
think
mean,
that's a
okay,
way smarter way. Way
put it
smarter.
this way as well, right? If you play a game and you realize that you keep dying to this boss nowadays, the first thing you do is to Google how to get past this level, right? And someone out there in some forum will show you the way, right?
Yes, yes. Like a
And
walk.
actually, if you take that and you apply that to real life learning right now, that's exactly how we learn, right?
Hmm.
Shucks, I don't know how to solve this theory. I don't know what binomial theorem means. Then I Google it lah. And as I Google it, I find out more information about it. I start learning about the concept behind it and how other people might see it. And actually, maybe I know how to solve this problem now. So we're also encouraging you to self-source learning. We're encouraging you to look out and to try to expand the avenues in which you gain information.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think this is really talking about different ball game, man. Most of the one of the biggest headache of educators, right, be it tutors or teachers, right, is that
Mm-hmm.
we often feel that students are not motivated, and we often feel that no matter how much heart and soul we pour into our jobs, sometimes we felt that we are seen it's a nuisance, or yeah. So students like they feel that we are forcing them to learn, and they don't appreciate what we do. That's sometimes it happens. Yeah. So when what you describe is like, wow, students get motivated. That's good. That's very, very good. Then
Yeah.
that's, let's say, the holy grail of teaching, as a teaching profession. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I would like to ask you for the next advice. All right, the next advice to uh, raise engagement.
Okay. I think there are a couple of questions. We'll look at Q&A, is it?
Yeah, we'll look at the Q&A later. Yeah, we'll come back to the Q&A, the questions.
Okay.
It's a good thing that questions are coming in. Yeah, so please, viewers, please feel free to post your questions. Yeah, just put it in the comments section. We'll come to
Okay.
them.
Sure. So, for example, for two-way approach for me, I strongly believe that at this point, as I mentioned, I think educators or our people of our generation, right? We're no longer necessarily the custodians of the digital world. In fact, a lot of the younger students are more digitally savvy than us. They have ways and means to access more information than us. So it's important for us to be able to learn from them as well about how to teach, how to learn, how to encourage learning on a few different levels, rather than a more one-way approach on I teach and you learn. So I always believe that, and if you take this on a gamification level, I suppose, it's how game developers or game designers respond to their players. Once I set the platform or I set the game, and I need to be able to see how players play my game, right? How are they abusing my game, or finding loopholes in my game? How are they, changing my game?
Hacking
How
your game.
Yeah, and is it as I predicted or not as I predicted, right? And from there, I learned how to what we call patch the game, which means improve on the game by patching up certain holes, certain loopholes, by introducing new mechanisms and stuff like that, right? So I think teachers need to adopt the same patching mentality into understanding how students process our lessons, how they process our learning, and then be able to patch our own learning style, our own teaching styles, uh, and maybe adopt and add in new mechanics, right, that allow us to teach better, that allow our students to process our personal lessons better.
Okay. When you talk
Mm.
about mechanics, are you able to share where can we find this mechanics, or is there some kind of knowledge base that we can tap into?
No, I mean, for now, mechanics are split into two ways. One is like gamification mechanics, which is a separate ball game altogether. The other one is just teaching mechanics that you might have. So, for example, if your students say, "Hey, actually, we find it more fun, or we learn better if there were quizzes, like random quizzes or trivia quizzes and stuff like that," and we understand that that might not be our teaching style, but if we understand that our students like the element of surprise quizzes and stuff like that because it keeps them on their toes and stuff, then that's how we should kind of process that and say, "Okay, guys, today there'll be a quiz," or something like that.
Okay.
And it might actually improve how our own personal mindsets or how we look at certain things. Or if they say, hey, I would really love if you would be able to show me how math works in real life, because I cannot see how maths will impact my real life, right? Then it is also our job to show how relevant it might be in real life case studies, for example.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed one thing about you is that you are very, very good in talking to your users. You talk in a very non-threatening way. Is that how you collect this feedback?
Sorry, sorry.
Is that how you collect this feedback? Because I say non-threatening way because sometimes when I talk to students, right, they feel a bit scared. They say, "Why you look so fierce? What you want to know from me?" Yeah. Yeah. So how do you collect feedback to make it a two-way approach?
No, I'm just a nice guy, lah. So no, I'm kidding, kidding.
Okay.
Uh, Yeah, fair enough. So I think for me the feedback also is if I feel that a student might be a bit reticent, or if I feel that my learners sometimes are a bit shy to give feedback, right? what I tend to do is to encourage them to break my game or encourage them to break my program and stuff. Say, okay, you know, what have what do you feel is totally not relevant to what you've learned, right? And you can share all these things with me. And I think once they start sharing and once we start discussing, it's important for us to recognize the feedback, not just say, okay, I'll note it down. But if you don't
Mm,
discuss it with them, then it's still a one-way street. So for example, if you tell me that, oh, actually, like if I tell you time challenges, right? Like we talked about time challenges earlier, and then if your response is okay, noted, I'll take note of that, then that conversation kind of dies there. Sure, I made my point, but there is no discussion on my point, and because of that, I wouldn't know how to proceed on, right? But because you asked me, then so do you feel that time challenges can continue and so on and so forth? Then it sparks that vested interest in me to
mm,
continue, right? And this applies anywhere in terms of any type of feedback. So if you're at a restaurant and you say, "Oh, the food was cold, it was terrible," and then you go, "Okay, I noted that," then that conversation kind of dies there, right? But I say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, like, would you prefer it if we serve you something in the meantime, or how would you like us to make your experience better?" And then you slowly start to think and you start to add more and start to get more invested in our conversation, even if it
yeah.
starts as criticism, right? So I think that to me is the way to talk about two-way approach. So for example, if you say your lessons are boring, I was like, okay, if I go, okay, noted, I'll make it more fun. But that doesn't say anything, right? Unless I ask you, okay, so what do you view as fun? What's cool? What's interesting to you? Then you start talking to me, and that becomes a two-way.
So the really zero defense, huh? Really, we have to really put down our ego to like want to
Try lah.
defend.
Then after that, go get a beer or whiskey and then sit in a corner and then. But before that, yeah, so yeah, just take it. Yeah, it's growth. It's growth.
Yeah. Okay, get it. Okay, so if you have any questions to for the viewers, right? If you have any questions, please remember to jot down your in the comment section, and do like us and do share this interview with your fellow educators and fellow tutors. Okay, so I think we have come to the end of the tree advice. I would like to ask you to share any special case study or any
Mm-hmm.
stories that you find especially interesting to in your line of work.
Yeah. Um, I think so. When we look at gamification or when we look at game-based design or game-based learning, we're not always looking at digital. So don't forget that it doesn't always end up um as an app or as a platform in which you can use. Sometimes gamification just works on your lessons and makes your lessons more interesting. So we ran a collaboration with Visa University in Singapore, and they actually engaged us to talk about or to help create a program for the Boys Brigade on excuse me on the financial literacy. So in particular, concepts like budgeting, savings. Um, there's a theme concept called debt snowballing and avalanching. So debt snowballing essentially means you clear off the smallest value debts first. So if I owe $5, I clear those off first and then I move on to the larger debts. The other strategy is called debt avalanching, which is I clear the debts with the highest interest rates. So it hurts me less over time, right? I know all this because I went through the whole painful process of changing into a game. So what we did with stuff like that, for example, was we turned it into a snowball simulation for our students, our players, right? We got them to say, okay, there are a couple of I think we called it a snowball fight. We turned it into a snowball fight where there are a couple of abominable snowmen attacking you. They have this amount of hit points and they do this amount of damage. Okay, and there are three or four of them at the same time, and they all do these things. So do your own calculations and figure out as a group which strategy you will use, the snowball strategy or the avalanche strategy. And then they started getting into it. They started doing their numbers and they said, okay, for this one, right, we can only survive if we take the snowball strategy. And like, okay, you're right, because you have your own hit points, right? And you have your own damage. So then they started to understand, okay, this is kind of how we look at debt as well. How much reserves do we have? Therefore, what strategy should we use to attempt to clear what type of debts first?
Is that
So,
a digital app or is
no,
it?
no, no, no. We did it. We did it entirely in a classroom. Yeah.
Wow. How
Yeah.
how
So
do you do that?
we created a PowerPoint simulation, and then we gave them
Right.
whiteboards, and they flash their whiteboards when they've come out with their answer. So they look at the hit points and all this sort of stuff. They look at their own hit points, which is given to them in the sheet, and then they go and calculate and they go and do their own. Then they write it on a mini whiteboard, and then they flash it and they go, okay, this is our answer, and then
Wow.
we'll mark. Yeah,
Like a game show, like you write your answers and then you flash.
yeah.
Wow.
And like for example, when we look at like I think we looked at budgeting, right? So why I feel autonomy is very important is because the problem with a lot of exams sometimes, I mean it's not a problem, but it's a way of learning, right? Is that exams don't encourage autonomy of thinking and autonomy of application. So we started off the idea of budgeting or the notion of budgeting on a very primary school level. Your whole family is going on a trip, okay? Your whole family is going on a trip. You earn X amount of salary, and you are going to spend 3 days in a trip. So that's usually like the start of every exam question ever, right?
Yeah.
So now the difference is what we told them is that okay, you can either take a bus, you can fly, or you can travel by car. You can eat fine dining, you can eat at a hawker center or whatever. You can stay in a budget hotel, all this sort of stuff. The other difference is you can declare whether you want to use 100% of your monthly income, 80% of your monthly income, 50% of your monthly income, 30%, as long as you justify it properly. So we gave them absolute freedom to tell us how they want to spend. So some groups said, we don't mind spending 100% of our monthly income because you know what, it's an annual trip, it's fine. Other groups said, no, 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 no. We're only going to spend 40% of our monthly income because still must be prudent. And that affects how they structure the rest of their trip, right? So our job was not to judge you as to whether you're right or wrong. Our job is to ask the visa judges to indicate who planned it best. And I think this is the slight difference. Yeah.
I see a lot of self-expression there. I think that
Yes. Yeah.
the students will love it.
Yeah, because you know, if you are genuinely trying to plan a trip now, whether you're going to like Iceland or I mean not now lah, but when the skies reopen, right? You will then have to make these choices. Do I plan for 40%? Do I plan for 60%? Do I plan for 100%? And if I do, what are my options available? Can I fly by plane or I must only travel by car or something like that, something like that. So then you start to make all these choices. There's no right answer to it, right? It's a personal answer to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Uh, okay. Would you have another case study to share with us?
Yeah. Okay. You So I'm also a reservist trainer in the police force. Okay, and I'm a classroom trainer, which means that I gotta prep my reservist officers for to be familiar with procedures and processes before they go back to deployment. Because when you are deployed as a reservist officer, you are a fully functioning police officer lah, which means you have to be up to date, right? And I realized that a classroom session is boring as hell for like 40 middle-aged men coming back to serve for like a couple of weeks, right? It's really boring lah. So um we'll teach things like uh hostage situation, for example, right? How to drag hostages to safety and all this sort of stuff, or how to drag injured people to safety. These are typical things that policemen have to do in case of like any severe situations lah. Okay, so when I go through slides like that, you can imagine yourself falling asleep. Because in what situation will you ever have to drag a hostage out into safety? Like never, not in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
So what we do at the end is I get some of them to role play hostages, and I scatter them all around the room, and I get the rest of them to form a squad, and I brief the squad, and I tell the squad, um, okay, you all are one squad now. You have to decide which size hostages you all want to take out. If the guy is too big, how you're gonna go about doing this? I need all of you to rescue the hostages. At the same time, you all need to uh shoot. You all need to use your guns to fire at us. If you don't fire at us, we will start firing back at you and stuff like that. So suddenly it becomes a game to them. And all these guys who used to just like sleep through the whole thing start to think, hey shit, okay, now we're all a squad, right? Hey, we can take that guy. The guy is quite big, so I need the two of the biggest guys to go. And then they start planning their resources. They start saying, okay, two of you keep your fire on the trainers while we go and rescue. Because the moment you stop firing, we will fire back. And if we hit you, you become a casualty, right? So this is kind of how we do it. And then they started getting super excited about it. And they start to plan. So you can take all these theoretical things that people don't necessarily pay attention to, create it into an application, activity, exercise slash game slash whatnot, and then realize that even the most boring things can be made fairly interesting.
I think one of the pitfalls is that the people try to download a lot of information over PowerPoint slides and stuff like that, right?
Yes,
That's what
yes.
makes people fall asleep. So,
Yeah.
so by gamifying this this session, this training for your Singapore Police Force, did you manage to see their behavior change?
Yeah, of course. I mean, everyone gets fairly excited. Everyone gets like more strategic. You realize that even the guys who are the most bo chap or most chill about it actually have a role to play, and actually need to run out to start grabbing people back or start rescuing people. Of course, we will mark them on like proper techniques lah. You got to, carry a person properly and stuff like that lah. So
Hmm.
these are things that they actually realize that, oh, okay, we can talk about it all we want, but when we start to apply it, then it's a very different scenario altogether lah. It's under pressure,
Hmm.
and things like that. And these are things that I think everyone secretly trains for, but never actually has to apply until we give them a safe environment to apply it lah. Yeah,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
yeah, I think this is another example of how you can use game mechanics, game theories, game applications to really transform what could be a potentially very bland
Yeah.
session,
Yeah. Okay, to all our viewers out there, so if you have questions, please remember to leave a comment leave the question in the comment section. We'll come to the Q&A session already. So I would like to wrap up the case studies now and we'll move on to the Q&A. I believe we have a question asked by Rahul, right?
Mm.
Rahul's question. Okay, let's take a look. Rahul's question. What about subjects the students less interested in? How to build excitement to want to go through the reset and build up skills to pass the boss paper? Oh, it's about the boss paper and the reset. Okay, good question. Very good question. Thanks, Rahul.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's a good question. I know Rahul. Hi. Okay, so I think when we look at these things, boss levels don't always have to start at a very, very high experience level, for example. It could also start as a mini completion level, which means that if you pass or if you've gone through subject one, we'll push you a little bit higher just to clear that level, give you that confidence to say that, hey, I've already mastered a basic level one, and then progress up to different types of bosses. So that's one way of actually structuring, which means that you have a lot of tiered bosses. So if I can visualize that, I can literally see that maybe there is a mini boss 1 to mini boss 2 to mini boss 3 to mini boss 4 to grand boss 5, and I can see the progression. It encourages me to take a step-by-step kind of process or step-by-step kind of approach to completing the boss levels one at a time. So it's also banking on that role. The other way, which is to me kind of a little bit of a cop-out, is that you incentivize students to take the boss papers or the boss challenges. You could incentivize it not by sticks but by carrots, um in that uh in that you actually give like unique completion rewards to people who have completed the boss level. So I think in the Octalysis framework, it's also tapping on the what they call loss of avoidance, which means if everybody has that medal or everybody has that level reward and I don't, it's a fear of missing out or FOMO thing that I push myself to want to complete it lah. So there are two different ways that you can approach it. One, by looking at it as a very progressional kind of thing, a lot of mini bosses. I can visualize it, right? So as I complete the mini bosses one by one, I have this like steamroll effect of momentum that wants to bring me forward to take on harder, and it might actually help me gain some level of renewed interest in a subject. Yeah. Then the other way is probably a carrot, which is quite nice also.
Okay, great. Okay, so Well, we have another question from Olive. Okay, Olive says, any suggestion to make online English language coaching more interesting?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would think that the great thing about English is that it's all around us, right? So some challenges, we always want to be able to set challenges to our to our students to express themselves, to see why English is different, how things have changed, and so on and so forth. So, for example, if I were to set different scenarios and say, okay, uh, right now there is there is a foreign businessman who is coming in and he has this command of English, and he's trying to or he has a lower command of English and he's trying to ask about a business conference and stuff like that. How would you actually tailor your language to suit him, right? Or if I were to challenge you to maybe listen to rap music or listen to different forms of English or different accents or English in different countries, um, how do you actually respond or how do you actually discuss these things? So I think the beautiful thing about English and the kind of terrible history about English is that English is a very colonial language, right? But the great thing about it, I know this because I'm a linguistics guy, but the great thing about this is that it spawns a lot of what we call creoles or local languages that you will find around the world, right? So for me, studying English or learning English is also about learning about different cultures all around the world and how like language is always different. So for Olive, what I would probably recommend is for you to create certain scenarios and then have a discussion about it. Or like how would you talk to a hawker, right? Let's say you want to translate to a hawker. Hawker don't understand what you're talking about. How would you simplify your language or complexify your language according to the situation? And this actually gets someone to practice like, okay, just because I'm very good at English, but my respondent is not, can I simplify my own language, to suit them? So I think that playing around with that is very interactive.
Yeah, Olive, thanks for a good question. I know that Olive is a very competent online English coach, and she teaches some of her students are adult learners.
Oh no, did
So
I
yeah,
overstep boundaries?
no. Some of her students are adult learners, and I think that sometimes some of them they may have situations where they need to learn to communicate to different levels at their working in their
Yeah.
workplace. So maybe
Mm.
they need to have a way to communicate to managers or to executives. Yeah, so that is an excellent place to apply what you just said. Create scenarios. Maybe like a boardroom presentation. What kind of
Yeah,
language
yeah.
do we use? Yeah.
And even a boardroom presentation with locals, with people from different cultures, how do you actually tailor these things, right? That in
Mm.
itself is a new way to gamify that layer already.
Wow. Okay. That adds a lot of richness to the whole experience, huh? Rather than
Mhm.
just the words and the sentences. But I'm sure Olive is already doing a lot of this thing. I know that she's an
Yeah.
excellent coach. Okay. We have the next question from Rahul. Actually, Rahul. Uh, okay. Boss paper works well for subjects like math and science. How do game principles work to encourage creativity? Remove time limits are great. Anything else to suggest?
Um, yeah, so actually, especially when we play a game, right? So the games that work best for encouraging creativity would be sandbox games, which means that I give you kind of a playable environment. I give you random tools and I give you random objectives, and your job is kind of figure out what tools will help you achieve what objective lah. So for example, if I were to set or if I were to give you a more open environment with a variety of different tools and a variety of different permutations in which you can use them, then it actually helps to create that level of exploratory um, what can I do? I'm prepared to make a couple of mistakes. It's just like, for example, if I throw you on a deserted island, um, right? And I tell you that there is a plane coming, or there are planes coming every 5 days, right? But while you are trying to get the plane's attention, you also need to build a shelter for yourself and stuff like that. You start looking around at your available resources. You start applying them to different things, things that could things that can be adapted out of their core function to suit your personal needs. For example, coconuts. Coconuts meant for water, but if I take coconuts and I transform them into something else or use them for something else, then that's a usage of something above core lah. So I think removing time limits is one way to get people to explore things, giving people a variety of different tools, but not telling them how to use those tools or how to combine those tools, will lead you to a lot of different ways of using these tools. Giving them objectives, but not telling them the journey to get to the objectives will also get people to try to explore their own personal way of getting to an objective. So if you do set your parameters like that, I think it makes it a lot more open-ended. More as a game, we call it open world, which means you are free to explore the entire world, right? From the core objective, like the quest people, to the more peripheral stuff, like the tree at the corner of the room. So when I give you that platform and I say, okay, there's no time, you do what you want, some people go straight for the core objectives and say, I need to complete this bit by bit. Other people say, while on my way to completing the core objectives, I do want to explore the rest of what is around me. So giving them that platform to be able to do that kind of makes sense. So I think like for example, like Jason, when you created your games on math and like zombie
Mm.
apocalypse and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you're kind of giving them the freedom to decide how and what tools to use to get to where you want to go,
Yeah,
right?
I get
And
surprised every time.
yeah, exactly. The surprise every time. The simple reason why you're surprised every time is because they're given the tools. They're not given the end goal or the end result. Sorry, they're not given like the end answer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
So there is like basically unlimited ways to accomplish the goal. Yeah, some like it fast, some like it slow. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So do we give them an abundant number of tools that? So we don't have to figure out as a planner of the curriculum of the lesson, right? Uh, we don't have to plan out how everything need to be carried out, right?
Yeah. So okay. Um, for example, okay, to me lah, this sounds. I'm coming up with this like on the go, right? And this sounds super high level to me, but I don't know how. Okay, see if it works. So for example, you're a physics teacher who has completed his syllabus, right? If you really want to encourage a high level of creativity with very little guiding information, just tell them that, okay, look, we're besieging a city or we're attacking a city right now, and I need to build a catapult to launch the stones above, right? Tell me what theories I should use. Draw on your entire year's worth of topics and theories. Tell me what I should use, and tell me how you will construct your catapult, for example. And then they are forced to not apply it to one particular topic. So if I don't tell you it's relative velocity, or I don't tell you that it's trajectory angles that you need to be looking at, can you find that out on your own? Can you go and search through your bag of tricks and pull out the theories that work or the theories that can be applied, right? Then that is a more open-ended way of like saying, here's your task. Use all your information, whatever information that you had previously, go solve it. And I think that encourages a lot of creativity lah, in terms of how they
Mm,
look at things. Some people could
yeah.
say, oh, I want to, rather than shooting over the walls, I want to reduce the walls to rubble first. So I won't shoot over the wall, I'll crumble the wall. Sure,
Mm,
if you allow that, then go for it, you know?
mm, mm. Okay, great, great. Okay, last call for any questions. If I don't see any questions coming in from you viewers, then I will move on to the next segment. So last call. Any questions? Okay, Jeffrey, if there is any questions that pop up, just please put them up. Put them up. All right. So if not, I will just move on to how do we get in touch with Seaway? If you have further questions, please email him. He prefer to be emailed. Yeah, so seaway.yo@livingtheories.com.sg. And Living Theory is actually a company founded by Seaway. Yeah, and we have lots of impressive work done by him, including Visa and Singapore Police Force. Now, let's see. Okay, sorry. Right. So I would like to invite Seaway, right, to talk about if there's anyone that you're actually looking for to collaborate or that you want to reach out to professionally. Can you just tell us what kind what persons or what companies that is? Anyone you want?
So I think for me, I'm looking at anyone who wishes to increase engagement, right? So whether you're an educator, maybe like Olive, who is a very successful business coach, but you're trying to look at new ways that you can create a more interesting syllabus or curriculum or conversation, I'll be happy to work with you to help you out. I do hopefully want to be able to speak to MOE on a larger curriculum level, because I genuinely do believe that we have a great potential for us to really increase the way or enhance the way we engage our students, whether it's academia or non-academic strategies. So I think being able to speak to uh, people in MOE who handle these kind of projects would be great. Of course, if you're just genuinely curious or you just really want to find out more about how we use kind of gamification strategies to engage people, then you are exactly our target audience. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I'll buy you coffee. So coffee's on me.
Okay, cool. Coffee is always good. All
Yes.
right. So as we draw to a close to this interview, thanks very much, Seaway, for coming on to this show. And I
My
want to
pleasure.
appreciate that you take time out of your busy schedule to share all this good stuff with us. So for tutors who are watching this interview, we'd like to appreciate you. We like to appreciate you for taking time. It's 1 hour of your time to spend time with us to learn something new from Seaway, and we hope that you have benefited. Now, please share with us your key takeaways in the comments section, and also if what kind of future themes or topics that you want to hear about, to learn about. So PRE will be back next week with more great tips from another speaker. So remember to tune in next week to the same page. The good way to keep informed is that liking our page and following our Facebook page, so that you know you won't miss any shows in the future. So we'd like to see you next week, and stay safe and take care. And thanks, Seaway, once again. And thanks, Jeffrey, for your technical wizardry. And hope everyone had a good time today. See you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.